Yo, can you guys hear me? Okay, that's good. Let's start with the stream. Hope everyone's doing good. Hope everyone's having a good time and had a good weekend to rest. And let's begin. Yo, Reaper, how you doing, brother? Hope everything's good. I'd like to start with a bit of initial thoughts on the market. The market doesn't look good, to be honest. We took a short over the weekend. I closed it for small gains because the execution on it wasn't that good. We got not the best entry on it, and now I'm looking for a push from these lows on Bitcoin so that we can start shorting some stuff again. I'm not a fan of how the weekly looks right now after the last weekly close. Also, the last 3 day close we got, and we have talked about this bearish looking daily close that we got back on Thursday, right? And since then, the market has been risk off. I have mostly de-risked my upside exposure. To me, my bias is that we are local topped for now, and the invalidation is very clear. If we are able to reclaim back above, and for now we are specifically talking about Bitcoin here, right? Ethereum, I have a slightly different bias, and we'll talk about that in a while. But for now, we are specifically talking about Bitcoin. And to me, the way we impulsively pushed up, swept the previous all-time highs, and we got this aggressive sell-off. These are usually local top signals, and I'd stick to them for now. And that's the reason I have let go most of my swing exposure. We TP'd our ETH exposure fully. I've sold my link spot fully. We look for shorts at bounces, and overall, I think the way these structures look, we'd get extension of the sell off. Like, first to bounce from these levels, like a push into 116, 117, form another lower high, and then I think we eventually bleed. I do think this move would be a bit slower. I'm not expecting like a flash dump into these levels, but I'm expecting something of this sort where we just slow bleed and dump gradually into levels which I'm looking at, which is like 107, 108K. That's where I think, unless we are able to get strength back above the range highs on Bitcoin, that's where I'd be targeting, especially going into end of this month. So that's what I have on Bitcoin on intraday. The reason I ended up closing my AF short in some profits is that we are approaching these range lows levels, and if we do end up closing a good 4 hour, which is still 2.5 hours, a little more than 2.5 hours to go. If we close this 4 hour confirming a demand, we could take a tight stop loss scalp where we long around these levels and look for a push into this 4 hour imbalance fill. So I'm looking at this 4 hour imbalance fill and a move back towards the lows around 110, 108K. So that's the bias I have in the market, specifically on Bitcoin. And about ETH, I'd say like I could still see a probability that before a local top on ETH, we do something like we retest these previous range highs, we get like an impulse, there comes some catalyst, maybe something more about the treasuries accumulating ETH that gives us the final blow of top into like 5,000, 5,100. And that marks the local top on ETH for a long time, right? I have shared how I find this current structure on ETH with Sol, and it's interesting to see that it's actually playing out pretty similar to that, right? I pointed out the similarity last week, and what we had in Sol back in January earlier was that we got a good Sol-led rally on the market. We slightly front ran the all-time highs break, right? So the all-time high was at 260, 261. At some exchanges, we did sweep and make new highs, and some we did not. And then we had a good, how much of the correction was this? So we had like a good 30% correction in Sol. And then I think it was the Trump coin launching on Solana narrative that gave us the last blow of top into new all-time high sweep. And that was the local top on Sol for a long time. And that's something I could see ETH doing. Even though I think BTC is topped out, locally means like short to mid term, right? Like going into August, end of August and September, I think we do not get any new highs on Bitcoin. And the invalidation behind that bias is us getting acceptance above 120, 122K area. But on Ethereum, I could see this happening where we retest these range highs into 3800 ish. We get an impulsive buyback into new all-time highs, like a blow off candle, similar to what we had in Sol in January when Trump got launched on Sol, and that's where I could see Ethereum topping out. So that's kind of my midterm views on Ethereum, right? On intraday, I think the levels to be trying long, which I mentioned in my corner this morning, is around the weekly demand and the weekly imbalance, right? So the last time as well, where we had such a good and a wide weekly imbalance, we got some good imbalance fills before ETH ended up trending back up, right? This was the weekly imbalance fill. Yeah, this one, right? So this is similar what I'm expecting right now, that this is the weekly imbalance. Now we have a good fill of this, maybe tap this weekly demand. So anything around below 3900 into 3800 is where I think we can try again ETH and probably this time target new all-time highs. So I could see ETH and some of ETH related stuff still doing decent because of the treasury narrative. And we have already seen how Bitcoin has been ranging for more than a month by now. We are stuck within this 116 to 115 till 120 to 124K range on Bitcoin, while ETH has almost doubled in the price, right? And I could still see that outperformance happening with these treasury narratives. And once this pullback is over, which I think we should be getting into 38, 3900s, that's where we can, scale back into ETH for a move back towards 4700 and ideally into new all-time highs. So that's what I have on the market overall, to be honest. Bitcoin, I think, locally topped out. ETH probably have one leg up. But overall, I'm not a fan of how the higher time frame closes on Bitcoin specifically look in the past days. So intraday, I think we can get a bounce here, but unless I have some confirmation for me to be trying longs, I won't. And if we are lucky and we get a good push up on the market, which would be ideally 117 and anything higher, we'll try some shorts. And this time we'll focus more on the meme side. I think AVE wasn't the best of the choice we had to be shorting, to be honest, because we have talked about how on dips you should be focusing on ETH and ETH related stuff to be longing. And when you need to be shorting, you should be more focused on the weaker stuff such as memes and things, right? So this time, if we do get a push up, I have some of the memes I want to be trying shorts on. One is Useless. Useless was a Bonk coin. Bonk coin has been underperforming by a lot. Pump Fun is getting most of its market share back now. And this is also the reason why Bonk has been underperforming by a lot. And I do think that Useless got its Binance listing a while ago, right? I think it was last week, end of last week. And usually on things that run good and they end up getting Binance listing, they do top out for a long time, right? So I think so this scandal was the Binance listing, if I'm not wrong. We got a deviation above Binance listing highs, and now we are bleeding back down after breaking down from this trend. I think I was discussing the setup with Impulse a while back, and me and him have the similar idea where I'd want to be shorting Useless on the next push up. Another coin that I want to be trying short on is Pengu. I think it would eventually give a move into these range lows. And I also have a spot limit on Pengu at this level. So what I'm looking at is one small push up along with Bitcoin, another lower high, and we take a shot on Pengu for a move back down. So Useless, Pengu, Bong, Pepe, these could present good short opportunities, probably SPX as well. This is the chart I have on SPX, and where did the chart go? Yeah, this one. So let's start a fresh one on SPX. So yeah, I don't like how we are deviating back below this big macro range we had on SPX, right? I can pull this level a bit lower, I think, yeah. So the past two times we retested these previous range highs, we got some good pushes up, but now the structure overall doesn't look any good, to be honest. So any good push up on the market, and SPX is another coin that I want to be shorting. So memes would be something I'd be focused on if we get push up to be trying shorts. ETH related stuff, I still would be more focused on to be longing on pullbacks. Like you can already see Link, like with the small BTC buyback, we almost have a 6% bounce on Link. So ETH betas would still remain good bids you want to be trying on pullbacks, while memes would remain my focus when I want to be trying shorts. So yeah, that's what I have, to be honest. So as usual, I'd love to know from you people how your trading has been. What do you think about the market? Anything in general you want to be talking about, feel free to do so. HBJ, when short Bitcoin, I probably will try a Bitcoin short too, if we are lucky enough to get a good push up. So yeah. Totally agree with you. BTC weekly. Also noticing how every impulse out of precision range is getting smaller. BTC weekly and good track record of move different direction. Yeah. I think we are locally topped on Bitcoin for now. Salam Rahim, how you doing, brother? What do you think about LDO? I'll take in alt request soon. We have New York open in 10 minutes. So before that, I'd like to have more of like general market discussions rather than specific alt request. What about FART? FARTcoin, Eli started a challenge for FART. You can stick to that challenge, right? Every trader has their own bias, and you are better off following to a single trader than trying to have multiple opinions on a trade. We'll try BTC short on 19th to 20th. Small pushes awaiting us August. Let's see. I initially did want that 119 push because we have some good confidence to be trying shorts there. We have this 12-hour imbalance. We have a good range highs area. A lot of confidence for us to be trying shorts there. But after today's move, I wouldn't even mind shorting to being a little aggressive and start scaling in from shorts like 117. I think 117, 118 is my area of short for now. On weaker stuff, on Bitcoin, I'll see if I want to be shorting at 117, 118, or rather wait for 119, 120. Just took the trade on bio. What do you think about that? If you took a trade on bio and you have a setup, then stick to it. Right now, I'm more focused on Bitcoin and overall market perspectives on a Monday and going into first New York open of the week. Just afraid of the Trump news, war piece, etc. Plus Zelensky coming to White House. Let's see, man. I think it's always news following price action and narrative following price action. So we'll see. If you do get a push up, I think I'll try shorting it, to be honest. Like I think the last time we got anything positive about the Ukraine-Russia news and we pushed up. What was that? Let me see if I have a good memory still. I think it was this. I know it was around this. I'm pretty sure. Around mid, like start of Feb, like 8 till 10 Feb. This was the price action, and we had something about Trump coming on call with Putin and he announcing that there is something positive coming out of the conflict, and then we had a good push up. Maybe it was this or maybe it was this, but that push up ended up retracing back down, and we got some good news. Sell off into the lows. So think would be good news, and we might pump. Obviously, like if we do get like a solid news on that Ukraine-Russia war is coming to a complete end, and they have agreed to some kind of a treaty, that would definitely be positive on the markets short term, and we will see some pushes up. But then the question would be how sustainable that pushes up are, right? If the market is still risk on, then those pushes up could lead to some strong rallies. If not, and you start seeing some weakness after the initial news pump, then that kind of tells you that the market isn't as risk on anymore. Back below 100 for now. I'm looking at like 107, 108. I think that's where we could be trading end of August. Saw your quant drawing on Twitter. Yeah, it was basically just copy pasting this fractal from when we topped out in January. It was a very similar top, to be honest. We swept previous all-time highs, and we got aggressive sell-off. We chopped for a while, and then we just bled down into 80k, 75k. I remember. So something like this I could see happening. So it's from the January top. My idea is to take some small leverage alts around 24th, 25th August and 1st, where we see BTC 108, 110. If we get a good pullback end of month, then yeah, I'll agree with you. But usually, like last few days of the month, we get some good de-risking, right? We had the similar bias last of month. It played out as well. Did it? Let me confirm. What happened last end of July? Yeah, we had some good de-risking, right? Towards like end of July and start of August. So end of month, start of month, usually good de-risking you usually have in the market. Bybit, we thought competition is coming also really, really bad. PA, I agree. Those competitions aren't as good for alts price action. VSOT is like the annual trading competition Bybit holds, and you do get some good participation in large volumes of people just trying to win the competition with big volumes and just trading very lower time frame, and that kind of causes like weird price action on alts because you have PvP price action where they are just teams trading against each other and trying to win the competition based on just small moves. I would never get why don't they choose a good time period for holding that competition, right? Like, why do they need like August or like end of summers to be holding those competitions? Why don't they do that like quarter one, quarter two? What should I do with my ETH? 4350 now. What should I do with my ETH 4350? It is at entry, man. So now it's up to you. I spent the last 20 minutes explaining my bias on the market. Yeah, 4 minutes into New York Open. I'll probably give this useless limit soon for the group. Can we pump ETH to 4470 so I can exit? That's probably your entry, right? Okay. Like if your entry is way lower, then I do hope that you just take some good profits out and let remaining run so that like, you're not afraid to round trip big amounts. I see pump and dump. I think like if we see immediate New York Open push up into 117, 118, yeah, I could see that happening. I didn't. That's why I want to TP at 4470. Again, completely your call, man. But I'd say like since you're saying that your entry is way lower, then you should still take some profits out, no? I stopped trading in New York timing and I'm not losing anymore. I could agree with that. Especially the first like 30 or 1 minutes or 1 hour. You should kind of avoid trading in New York Open. I hope Sol pumps for short. Sol is a good indicator lately, to be honest. It was strong over the weekend. It pushed up like good 5-6% from the lows, and following that, everything nuked back down. So Sol is the new ETH for sure. Still happy I sold all spots at the first crypto White House summit months ago and just doing small leverage to pay daily expense. That's pretty smart, Rhyme, to be honest. I think as long as you're just following the narratives it's still a good market. Like for example, you could have sold all your spot back in the January and still make good money if you just followed the ETH narrative, right? Just long ETH at every good confirmation, and you'd just get paid well. Like ETH basically almost like 2-3x within a month or two. So just stick to good one or two good narratives in the market, and I don't think you just need to hold multiple spots in these current conditions. I made 5K in 2 months and now paying my 10 days road trip with my son in Portugal. That's really nice. I hope you have a good time. How is Portugal overall? Like to be living for a while, because I was intrigued. A lot of European countries have this digital nomad visa where you are like if you are remotely earning more than I think $3,500 or plus, you can apply for like a visa where you are. I think you get like a you can live for more than like 4 to 5 years, and if you just spend certain amount of time, you can also apply for the passport and stuff. Are you setting limits for ETH, by the way? Limits? Like, if I have to place some blind limits, then yeah, ideally around like 3,800, 3,850 is where I would. Many Indians, Pakistan, as the government regularized many people over the last one to. Yeah, the immigration problem is there, but South beaches are fine. Lisbon, centric, nice, good with the food, also not bad. That's good. Okay, so we are pushing at New York Open. Let's see. Correction for S&P. I haven't looked at S&P in a while. Let's do it. Hmm. Still pretty strong, to be honest. Yeah, the only reason I could be like short term cautious on S&P is if you're like losing these previous highs, right? Like we did back in Feb 25, where we I think it was the tariffs sell off on stocks we had. So as long as these previous highs are held, you could expect it to trend back up. To be honest, nice cool off after the initial leg. So ideally, you would want it to do something like this, but if you are doing like deviating back below the highs and something of this, then probably. But I don't think we have been much correlated to S&P in a while now, so not something I'm too focused on looking. Strategy announced an upgrade to its semester equity ATM guidance to provide greater flexibility in market strategy. I know, like, this about the sailor thing. One thing I'm a little concerned on is that, like, for example, the last week we didn't get much of sailor bids, right? Um, I think he only bought like what 40, 50 mils, which isn't anything. When you compare it to what sale strategy has been bidding over the past few weeks, we got like anything around half a bill to 1 billion of bids every single week on strategy biddings. And one thing I'm a little concerned is that whenever you don't have strategy buying and ETFs buying in such large volumes, you can already see how underperforming we get, how much of underperformance we get on Bitcoin, right? And that's one thing that could be a little concerning, is that the only bids you are right now getting is either from institutions or from the sailor side. There isn't any much of retail involvement currently on the market. That's also the reason why the only things that have been running lately are the things where you have institutional involvement, right? Stuff like ETH and ETH DeFi's and the stablecoin narrative. That's the only things that have been running. And the rest of the stuff has been underperforming by a lot, right? Memes are making new weekly lows every week. A lot of alts are still bleeding. And the only things that are running are ETH and the DeFi's and the stablecoin narrative things, right? So kind of not that much of a risk on signal, to be honest. It's just mostly institutional bids lately, nothing else. Retail involvement doesn't seem to be here much. I'd recommend people to make their queries a bit brief because it makes it difficult to be reading such long paragraphs on stream. Hi everyone, I have a question regarding TA. If it's possible to receive answer here because I'm new here, would be very happy. Is it true from TA perspective that traditional triangles, resistance falling and support rising, signal the last move when it comes to price movement? I mean, then going down from the triangle means that this move down is the last one. Price will reverse that. I heard that. I wanted to confirm. That's all crap, man. Triangles, just trading based on triangles is Delulu stuff. Why are people ignoring the fact that the global conflict could be coming to a head today? Which global conflict are we talking about? I see bearish outlook overall, but surely this is so bullish. If not, catalyst to kick alt season. I know what you are exactly talking about, but I do have a bearish bias midterm, right? We did start the stream talking about that. I think the markets are locally topped, right? Crypto markets, especially Bitcoin. So we did start with that bias on the stream. Now, which conflict and what does that do? I am not too much interested in. As long as you are playing the charts and you have invalidations on your biases, you can do good. For me, as long as we are below 120 and we are just making lower highs and lower lows on this price action, especially after the weekly closes we got, I do think we are locally topped for now. Oh, sorry, I missed. But surely if ceasefire is mentioned, we pump. I know, like, news trading lately hasn't been that positive, to be honest. Like, for example, remember people getting flooded on 8 billion cells that came to the market, and then actually we bottomed and rallied after that. Then we had, like, Sailor buying multiple billions, and that didn't do much positive. Then we had different like tariffs, FUD, and stuff like that. I think the more we are heading into this Trump administration, the news are having less and less effect over time, right? Like I just gave an example earlier that the last time I remember when Bitcoin was just ranging and chopping after topping out, and we got like a positive news on the Russia-Ukraine war. It was, I'm pretty sure anyone who has a good memory can confirm, but we were trading anything around here, in between like 10th Feb till 13th, 14th Feb. We got a positive news from Trump, put in call. We got a push up. We just swept highs and we ended up bleeding back down, right? So the news itself isn't important. What's important is how market reacts following that, right? One thing for sure is that we will get a push up if we get any, good solid news on a peace treaty happening. But how market reacts to that over time is something you should be more interested in, not the news itself. I'm not a trader, but I've worked for the Russian government in the past and I have a lot of experience in international relations. There will be no ceasefire, and the only reason Zelensky brings in European leaders with him is for backup. Of course, that is my opinion. Let's see. Let's see. I won't comment much on it because that's something I'm not too much aware in, right? I do hope it's a ceasefire because it's just something I want because war isn't good for anyone, right? I was just reading at the numbers and it was surprising that I think almost like 600,000 people have lost their lives just because of this, Russia Ukraine war. So, in the end, peace is all we want. Yeah, let's see. We got like a small New York Open push and now we are back to doing nothing. Let's see. I'd be more interested in how this 4 hour closes. My midterm bias is that we'd see lower, and this is the local top for now. Short term, intraday, I want to see if we could get some push up so that we can get back in shorts. I do want to try some shorts, but I don't want to be aggressive on a Monday pullback, right? I want to get some bounces so that we can comfortably get into shorts. No, I'm not in any position currently. I was in AVE short that I closed in small gains this profit this morning. AVE rejected precisely at yearly open. Yeah, that was not the best execution, I'd say, even though it played out decent. But I also see a lot of people panicking yesterday. I got few DMs and tags and some posts on Twitter on how bad of a shot it was. But sometimes people just don't have patience for a setup to play out. Um, I still think same about AVE that as long as it's below yearly open, we can see some further downside. But this time, when we try some shots, we'll focus on memes and stuff, the weaker stuff. AVE somehow gets dragged along whenever ETH or Link is showing strength, so we want to be shorting weaker stuff. I feel like anytime we had these sell-offs, we bound we bounced into New York Station and then get dragged down with it. No, kind of similar thoughts. That's the reason, like when I TP Dave this morning, I had a similar bias that whenever you get like Sunday sell off and early Monday sell off into like the first New York Open of the week, we kind of temporary bottom for a bounce and then we can continue with the downtrend. So similar thoughts. What's your thoughts on ETH to BTC chart? Still looks pretty decent to be honest, and that's the reason if you were in the start of the stream, we talked about that. Though I think Bitcoin is locally topped out, I could still see that after a bit of further pullbacks in the market, ETH eventually has that one last blow off top into like 5K plus. So ETH to BTC still looks decent to be honest. This was a big weekly level that we just flipped in the last weekly close. We are also trading above yearly open on ETH to BTC. So overall, I'd say like ETH and ETH related stuff should still be something you should be focused on trying longs when you have some bottom confirmation on the market. While memes and Sol related stuff is where your shorts should be at. What level are you eyeing for ETH? 3,800, anything in between 38 to 3,900. What's your favorite investment coin? Something I could start building a 2x coin on. I don't invest long term, to be honest. I only buy coins for good gains when the market is in a good momentum, which it isn't right now to me. So I'll just not recommend anything. Let me call this useless limit short for the group. Seems like the New York Open is pretty boring so far. So meanwhile, you can just shell me some of the alt requests you people have, and in these last 15 minutes, we can go over those. Dodge. I'll just do like a quick streak of alt charts so that we can go over the maximum of charts I want. Um, Dodge. Dodge. This is the level you'd want it to hold. To be honest, doesn't look as good. Um, if we end up losing this, this would probably be one of the alts I'd want to short. So it is at a good daily SR, but if it ends up losing here, which is 221, it's a good shot in my opinion. But Dodge isn't usually the coin I love to trade, to be honest. So let's move on to anything else. ENA could be interesting. ENA at a good area, to be honest. Um, uh, Maybe some low time frame bounce here, but overall, I think the level where I'd be interested on ENA is okay. Let's dive in a bit more. I think this like let's look at the daily. Hmm. How did the weekly close on ENA? We are retesting this weekly demand, to be honest. So yeah, like if I have to place some blind limits, I do that around 61 down till 57. This is where I'd place some blind limits on ENA if I had to. And if I have to market in at confirmation, I do that once ETH reaches that 3800, 3900, right? So usually for me, coins like ENA and Link are usually good ETH betas, right? So whenever you feel like, okay, ETH is coming close to a bottom, let's long some of its betas for a bigger volatility bounce. And in case of ENA, if I have to place some limits, I do that around 61 down till 57. And if I have to market in, I'll do that once ETH reaches that 3800, 3900 area, right? ELA has limits 61. That's a good confluence. So yeah, 61 down till 57 is pretty decent. Um, Grass, LDO, Pendle. Pendle somehow looked good few days back. Let's look at Pendle. Pendle is another ETH coin that's doing decent, to be honest. Not bad. Hmm. Interesting chart. Hmm. This is a really good high time frame range and alt to be playing, to be honest. With 6.8 being your range highs, 4.7 being your mid range, and 2.7 being your range lows on this 3-day time frame. Ideally, right now it's like in the middle of nowhere, to be honest. So I don't exactly know how you should be positioning, even though I'm not a fan of how this 3-day closed. So ideally, what I'd want if I want to get into Pendle is a good pullback into 4.7 area where you buy slash long it for a move back into the range highs. So yeah, I think this is not where I'd want to get in the middle of nowhere. Like it's in the middle of this mid range and range highs area. If you do get this pullback, especially after how this 3-day closed, this is where I'd want to get in. I could set some alerts for myself too. So if you get any pullback around 4.7, 4.8 on Pendle in coming days, that's a good area to try. So here you go on the Pendle. SCI is really strong, is it? Let's see. Eh, Hmm. The only place where I could be interested in SEI is one that if we sweep these lows, so these higher lows, we get a pullback in coming times into this quarterly open, which is like 28 cents. That's a good bid. So either it's 28 cents for me or a good yearly open flip. I think if it gives this yearly open reclaim, that would be something really nice. So have these two levels on SEI. One is the quarterly open in case of a pullback that you'd want to buy a slash long, or else a yearly open flip upside, which would be really like yearly open flips are really easy trades. We did that with Ave Cardano a few days back and it paid us decent. And I think if it gives this yearly open reclaim, that could be a really good long. If not, then a pullback into quarterly open, which is at 28.50, 28.40. Why you use a 3-day chart? Is there any specific reason for using it instead of the daily time frame? Most of the times I prefer daily time frame, but for alts that have a lot of prior price action, and I have a wider price action to just zoom out and have my macro levels. For those, I just start with 3-day and then zoom down into daily and 4 hours, right? 12 hours, whatever. LDO? LDO is a cursed coin, man. Not much to comment on this chart. Like LDO has one of the weirdest price action. I'd say like if you get anything around 1.2, $1, a good psychological area, you can try something, but not anything here you'd want to try, to be honest. I could see it doing something like this, which also goes in line with a 3800, right? So LDO is a kind of a ETH beta, not the favorite one, but still somehow it does move with the ETH. So if ETH gives like 38, 3900 and LDO gives like a 1.2, 1.1 ish retest, that could be a good long. Yeah, like people getting bullish on LDO, including me, is a good top signal. Whenever you see me buying LDO or longing LDO, that's a top signal for you. Can we check ARB? Okay, ARB. Another one of like the cursed coin categories, to be honest. Like just purely TA based, this is a good retest. Broke out of this accumulation, good daily level flipped, retested, got a bounce. Ideally, you'd want it to hold, but with knowing the history of these ETH coins, I'd not try this. Like, just looking at TA alone, if I did not know what ticker it is, I would have been positive on trying this. But since it's like a weird ETH beta, VC backed thing that just goes down only over time. OP, ARB, LDO, these are just lost causes for now. Okay, I think we have just like 7 minutes to go. We did discuss some good alt charts. There isn't actually a lot of good looking stuff, to be honest. So mostly I'm focused on some shorts if we get a push up. I've given a useless limit short for the group. If we do get more push up, I look for some more meme short. Ideally, Pengu, Bonk, Pepe. These are the memes that, including Fartcoin. But you kind of want like a good breakdown on Fartcoin to be chasing. Like this to me looks like this would eventually break down of this range. This big range Fartcoin has been in. It eventually breaks down. Maybe some push up here. But eventually, it's also one of the alts I'd want to short. So Fartcoin, Pengu, Wave, not Wave, Bonk, useless. These are the memes that I'd want to short once we get some good push up. In summary, I'd say that to me, the market looks locally topped out. Coming few weeks in like midterm, Focus on strategies where you're not falling into any euphoric biases, and the same for the bearish biases as well. I do think we'd see lower eventually, but I also think that would be like in form of slow bleed. That would include a lot of buybacks and chops and bounces before we eventually keep on going lower, right? So do not get overly bearish and overly bullish, and you do good in these conditions where you take pullbacks to be longing stronger alts, and pushes up to be shorting weaker stuff like memes, right? And as long as you stick to that strategy, I could see you still doing really good because the volatility is still there for you to be making money, right? It's pretty good volatility. It's not like the usual summer's price action and the August price action you have, right? Things are moving good percentage wise on the day. So as long as you are not chasing and waiting for your levels and biases to play out, you still can make some good money out of this summer volatility. So that's it from my side. Hype. I'll Some of these requests I'll see if I find anything interesting. I'll post in my corner. I have noted them down. So till then, have a good time. If you feel anything to be talking about related to markets and trading discussions, not just alts requests, you can feel free to tag me in the charts ideas or any of the discussion sections we have. Till then, have a good time. Talk to people soon. Take care, Allah Hafiz.